So,
get this thing going.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast of the day. My name is Brendan. This is Adam. This is Evan, and we're going to talk about.
this is Eddie.
Oh shit, Eddie. I'm sorry. I just met him. I'm terrible with names.
All right, let's start over.
Let's start that over.
Eddie's a lot more suited.
Oh my god. Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the day's podcast. My name is Brendan. This is Adam, and here's Eddie. And today we're going to be talking about some lifestyle topics and health and fitness and bodybuilding and steroids.
And making gains and building muscle and getting shredded and
Pretty
all
much, if
kinds
you
of
want to be
questions.
cool or well informed, you should listen.
Indeed.
Yeah. So
If you want to avoid being a low T cook, this is what you want to tune into.
this is the podcast for you. Absolutely. No cuck chairs allowed.
So I think I just want to get right off the top, right off the back. I just met him probably a week ago,
Yes.
and he told me some of the stats about himself when he was younger, and it blew my fucking mind. So I'm just gonna say some of them, and I'm gonna have him go a bit more into them. He was a 230-pound high schooler, or 250.
Yes. At my heaviest in high school, I want to say I was about 230 pounds. Yeah.
Jesus Christ! And this wasn't fat by any means, guys. This wasn't some linebacker. I'm sure you'll see what his physique looks like, but this was a 230-pound bodybuilder in high school, and that was impressive to me because I'm sure, like all you, I worked out very young, but I looked like a teenage workout guy. He looked like a full-grown man. So I learned that about him. I thought that was extremely impressive. Go ahead and tell us some of the stats.
Very much appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, started working out at 14. Saying first show I did 172 pounds. And then as things go, first cycle, just responded very quickly. And by my senior year, I was walking through the halls in high school, just 230 pounds, just an absolute
full as a house.
just full as a house, just the 2 Tupperwares in my book bag at all times.
Imagine like a freshman seeing you and like thinking this is what high schoolers are like.
Man, that would be terrifying.
Dude, I remember like going back to high school. I remember because my high school was very, believe it or not, I went to a performing arts high school.
Oh my god,
Gay.
that's hilarious.
Super gay. Backstory to that: when I was going into high school, my friend told me that the hottest girls go to the school X, Y, and Z. Luckily, by the time that I got there, apparently all the hot girls had graduated. So it's its own topic. But we didn't have any sports. We didn't have sports teams. So we had a scrimmage basketball team.
That sounds lame.
Horrible. And we eventually got a wrestling team of sorts. So
So a very gay high school.
very gay. super gay. But I remember the gym teachers who were obviously the coaches always try to recruit me to get on the wrestling team.
I'm sure.
Wrestling, obviously, sick sport. All respect to those guys,
Yeah,
but did not want to roll around in a leotard. But I was so focused on bodybuilding, I was just like, dude, leave me alone. I'm not using the size to roll around with other guys.
Exactly.
So
Me too in high school. Like, football coaches and wrestling wanted me to obviously play, but I'd already started bodybuilding and powerlifting, in middle school. So that was like my main priority in high school was, yeah, sure, I'm doing the same things kind of, still going to the gym and building muscle, but not with the same goals as
see, in
everybody
high
else.
school, like you don't want to tell them, like, listen, man, you don't want me. I'm not passing a drug test.
Yeah.
They didn't assume. They didn't ever say, "Hey, what the fuck?" Because
No, people definitely assume, but it's like
wrongfully.
I wasn't really. It wasn't a secret per se because senior year of high school I already wasn't natural because I got on when I was 17 years old, which is obviously super young. But I started competing naturally. One thing led to another. I wanted to be competitive, as the nature of it goes. So that year that I was 17 going on 18, I did my first cycle and I just fucking blew up.
What was the weight gain from that first cycle?
It was about 35 pounds.
And it was lean too, man. It was crazy.
I'm not gonna say I was like shredded, but it was like I had abs.
You were regular human shredded though.
Yeah. The thing is I think when you get on it at such a young age, because, and again, like if I could go back, I would have held off. I would have held off probably until 21 years old, like at least let my endocrine system kind of stabilize.
Yeah.
But what happens is you put hormones into a body that's already changing like that. You get a little water retention, you get things start to happen, but you do grow like a fucking weed.
It was neat that you were able to see your genetics be expressed, so crazy after one cycle. I'm sure that led to a lot of.
So I was, before I even got on anything naturally, I did get up to 230 pounds. Like I got, again, like not super lean, but I did get to that weight naturally. It's just that by the time I got on a cycle, it was a different 230.
For sure,
pounds.
entirely, yeah.
It was an entirely different kind of look. But yeah, man, like it was really cool to see. And then, but bodybuilding at the time was my passion. Still is, I would say, just not to the same extent. But it's like, dude, yeah, steroids, and like we could sit there and talk about, oh, like I blew up, but I was also eating 6 times a day. I wouldn't miss a meal. Yeah. Like if I didn't have my food, if I couldn't get my meal in, I was.
Well, I remember you spoke on the trainer briefly when we first met, who you worked with originally, and that was cool that someone spotted your talent and spotted, you know, how you kind of stood out a little bit.
I'll name drop like who I worked with. I mean, a lot of people watching this aren't going to know who he is, but if people are familiar with Kai Green, his first coach, who was Oscar Arden, was my first coach. And the gym that I was training at when I first got into bodybuilding, the manager there was working with him. He was his client. And he was like, you know what? I want to take you, introduce you to this guy. And this was in Brooklyn. We went to Oscar's at the time. It was like this basement, hardcore gym, likes of Evan Centopani trained there, Kai Green.
Yeah, man.
All kinds of like insane, freakish bodybuilders. And that's what kind of got me into the world of competitive bodybuilding for real. Like that he's the guy that showed me how to train hard. Now, I wouldn't train like this today, but we're talking about leg days where you puke, you keep going. I remember the first leg day I did with Oscar, I threw up 3 times and I just kept going because like you're young, like you're fucking crazy and you're just like, I'm going to do whatever it takes.
So, I feel like that's how it should be in theory if you're going to be taking steroids that young. You know, if you were to look at, you know, a 17-year-old today who, you know, obviously bodybuilding has got a lot more popular today versus, you know, a decade ago. Because when we were in high school, like, we were kind of the weirdos for being into bodybuilding. Like I was one of maybe 2 guys in the entire school.
Very much a cult sport. Yeah.
Yeah. Versus now, like it's pretty popular, you know, to be like into like the fitness, you know, like lifestyle kind of in high school, I would say.
It's trendy now.
I'd say it's mainstream. But what I will say though at the time, and like you'll agree with me on this because you were there.
Yeah.
At the time, steroids weren't a thing like they are now. So now you've got kids that get into bodybuilding, and because of social media, because of all the content that's out there about steroids and about enhancements and peptides and growth hormone and all these different things, a lot of guys that are younger get into this thinking that bodybuilding equals I have to take drugs. Yeah.
Yep.
At the time that we got into it, it was very much a taboo thing, and not so much taboo in bodybuilding, but like you weren't going to go up to the most jacked guy in the gym and ask him about steroids because he'd look at you like you're a fucking idiot. Mm-hmm. So it was prerequisites. Like at least where I was coming up in the gym I was training at, nobody was talking to you about steroids if you couldn't bench 315 naturally, if you couldn't squat 405 naturally. You had to really earn the right to go into that world. And when you were ready, somebody would have came to you and was kind of like, listen, you could take this to the next level. Here's, you know, what you could do.
You were such an exception to what is happening today where everyone just has access to it. You had the prime environment, the prime people around you. It was a very rare case of it.
It was a different world, man.
But also knowing how to train is the thing. Like kids nowadays, you know, if they'll hear about a steroid source or just learn about steroids before they learn how to even train to failure.
Right. So it's how to train to failure, how to train correctly, but it's not just failure, like how to train past failure. Because
that's a skill.
Is it optimal? No, it's not fucking optimal. But when you're young and you're just getting into it, you don't know where your threshold is.
Right.
So if you've never pushed past that threshold, you're leaving a lot on the table. And especially if you're 17, 18 years old and you've got all the recovery in the world, you probably don't really have responsibilities. You could get a ton of sleep. You're just going to school. You're doing whatever. That's the time to be doing that. And a lot of people these days don't even care to ask the questions. How do I do that?
And it's not really innate to know how to actually train to failure and beyond failure, because it's kind of it's somewhat of a pain tolerance. And if you think, you know, like, yeah, I train to my full exertion, that's one thing. But if you had a gun to your head and you went to that point of full exertion and you were told to get 10 more reps.
Blood and guts, baby.
And like there are so many levels beyond just training to failure by yourself in your first 3 years of training, that to learn what that feels like and then be able to take that level of effort and, you know, pain in a way and be able to apply that to a more effective set of, you know, like not a 30 rep set, but, you know, like a heavier set with good control, that skill that takes time and development, that's what's going to allow somebody to actually get the most out of taking steroids versus putting the cart before the horse of I'm going to start taking steroids and then my training is going to blow up. It's not going to work out that way.
Totally agree. And it's, a lot of the gains that we see happen, like people talk about, you could tell the guys on steroids because the shoulders, the traps, whatever. Yeah, like androgen receptors, sure, we have some androgen receptors in those areas. But really what's happening is most people don't know how to train those areas properly, so they're not growing. With steroids, obviously, you could grow a lot more with a lot less stimulus. So those areas start to grow from you just doing some bullshit kind of movements, side raises, rear delt flies, whatever. You don't even have to do them right. You don't even have to really go to failure, and they'll probably grow your first couple cycles. But once you do that and it taps out, where do you go from there?
Right.
You take more steroids? I mean, that's, I guess, the mentality of a lot of people.
Yeah, or then you run into the health issues, and then now you're, 25 and been taking steroids for however many years and don't even go to the gym. Your health sucks. You just, you're skinny fat now. And it's like, well, now the guy who stayed natural for his first 5+ years of training, then takes steroids and, builds the physique first naturally. That's the guy that's actually going to, stay in it for longer, which is
100%.
Is literally what we're at least what I'm doing. And, what you've done is you build the physique, you started training at 14 and started your first cycle at 17 after a very, your first 3 years of training is much different than most people's first 3 years of training.
Right. I mean, like I said, training in that dungeon gym with
Exactly.
Oscar. And it's
not a Planet Fitness.
And it's honestly, it's such a shame because post-COVID, a lot of these hardcore gyms aren't really a thing anymore, especially in Brooklyn. I mean, you had Richie's gym, you had Star Fitness where Victor Martinez used to train. You had all these great places that there was a culture there. Now that's not really a thing.
I mean, there's the social media kind of glorified it, but Diamond Gym, apparently you said you've been there, right? And it used to be one of those hardcore gyms.
I trained at Diamond again, so we could talk about that too, but Diamond has been around forever. I went there for the first time when I was 16, 17 years old. This is before I took gear. I was still natural. And you go in there and you see guys training fucking hard. And they're not bodybuilders. They're not looking to compete. This is just what they do. So we're missing a lot of that culture nowadays. But even the things that they do at Diamond Gym, a lot of people hate on it. It's not optimal. It's too much. It's this, it's that.
For show.
Maybe.
They're doing it for show.
But the reality is but they're not doing it for show.
Right,
that's what a lot of people
say,
don't know. Because Diamond Gym was that before any of this. Yeah. So people don't understand that, what we were talking about, that's necessary to learn. Where's your threshold? You have to push it to that extent to then be okay, these are my limits. Now I can optimize from there.
Exactly. You don't know where the line is until you cross it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, I know we want to transition into some more lifestyle topics, so I got a good one as a little middle ground. Both of you guys are huge on gut health, huge on nutrition knowledge. What's a kind of a standardized nutrition philosophy you guys live by that you think others could adopt? Because even you mentioned cholesterol earlier to me. Sure. I'm be honest, guys, I didn't know what the fuck cholesterol is. I still don't, but I realized I should probably look into it a bit more. So just that knowledge level you guys have, I think, can transition into people a bit with a little bit of advice.
Well, I mean, you can get as complicated and complex and scientific as you want with nutrition, or you could also be as basic as you want, and you can achieve the same result depending on the person. So, it really depends on, who's asking the question. Is it somebody who doesn't really know much about nutrition and just wants to start getting healthier, losing some body fat, maybe building some muscle? In that sense, I would say don't overcomplicate it, obviously. But when it comes to a diet, there's no perfect diet. The best diet that you can follow is the one that you're actually going to stick to. Adherence is first priority. So if I tell you to eat 10 meals a day of chicken, rice, and broccoli, on paper, that might be optimal, even though it's not, but that you're not going to follow it. So that's not the best diet for you. If you have to meet somebody where they're at, and for them, maybe the less healthy-ish type foods, maybe adding in some of the, whether it's, adding in a little bit of, dark chocolate, at night, or whether it's, adding in, maybe it's the Rice Krispie treats pre-workout or whatever it is, some sort of processed foods to be able to get them to stick to their diet, even diet drinks, for example. If that's going to allow them to stick to their diet and not just full on just cheat on it and just say, fuck the diet, that's better than trying to be perfect. So with that type of person, I would say, focus on just consistency to something.
Okay.
And
What,
going from there.
what amount of lenience off of a diet or a program do you think is the border between acceptable and non-acceptable?
What's your goal? Are you just trying to?
So I actually want to touch on this a little bit in terms of lenience and actual variety. A lot of people want the physique. A lot of people want to get lean. Now, if we're talking about general health, whole foods, you probably want to limit processed foods. Instead of a candy, you go fruit. Instead of a Rice Krispie treat, maybe you do honey, maybe an organic maple syrup, something like that. Now, that's if we're just talking about general health. Vegetables, all the things that make up a complete diet. But if we're talking about a physique goal where somebody wants to go to the beach and they take their shirt off and they have abs and they look good and they're lean, I think you have to earn lenience, meaning you have to earn the variety. A lot of people want to get into fantastic shape, but they don't want to eat the same thing over and over again. I think that's something that has to happen. Your meals don't always need to be super tasty. They just don't. Because if the goal is, again, physique, sometimes you got to eat boring shit.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the route that you have to go, because until you do that and you actually get in shape, once you're already there, now you could start playing around with like, okay, how much can I get away with? Where's my metabolism at?
Absolutely.
Where's my insulin sensitivity at, right? So, but until you go through the process of being very strict for, I'm not talking about years on end, but 3 to 4 months, you don't really know.
I think the way to look at it is with cheat meals, or even, and we're talking about like lifestyle, right? Like alcohol. I think if you're, 25% body fat or whatever, and you want to lose that extra 10 or 20 pounds, you don't need to have the balance while you're making that progress.
Right.
Make the progress, say, okay, I can survive without the cheat meals and alcohol for X amount of time, for a week, a month, 3 months. And then once you've made that progress by having the successful day after successful day and building that momentum, then once you're already lean and you can maintain that leanness, that's where, the maintenance comes into play of having things in moderation.
So I actually have a pet peeve about this with it's when you mentioned the alcohol thing.
Yeah.
We know the coaches that their whole marketing thing is you could eat whatever you want. You could, you can have your favorite foods.
Drink,
you
can get shredded. Yeah.
And no, you can't. I'm not, or if you can, don't expect it to be fast.
Yeah.
Expect that it's going to take a very long time if you want that level of balance. But if you want the result in a time frame where it's like, I'm not going to say like this, but quicker.
You got to accept it's going to slow down your progress.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it's also a thing of, what are you from now, like stepping into like a coach, putting my coach hat on. I'm not going to work with somebody that drinking is a non-negotiable for them. I'm just not, because that's not my coaching style. I don't think that that's conducive to goals. Like if we're talking about, again, my goal when I'm working with somebody is to get them as healthy as they possibly can be. And typically when they are that healthy, the physique is a byproduct of that. If they want to drink every weekend, I'm sorry, like I'm not the person that you want to work with. And typically what I see with the coaches that do program alcohol in on the weekends and whatever, you see the guys lose weight. Like you see them do a transformation, but their physiques aren't impressive. They kind of just lose weight into a skinny fat kind of look, right?
I think a huge thing with coaching, especially in my experience, is getting into that person's head who is drinking once a week, thinking it's not that harmless. It's only once a week. It's not every day, right? Well, it's only once a week. Getting into that person's head and making them realize how much that is actually affecting them, because it's not just a once a week little, extra calories. How's that affecting your insulin sensitivity? How's that affecting how you feel the next day with, whether you get hungover or not? How does it affect your nervous system? How's it affecting building muscle? It is empty calories. Every single beer, every single White Claw, every single shot of vodka or tequila, whatever, that's all 100 calories per drink, roughly 100 calories per drink. And then if you're stacking on, mixed drinks on top of that, you're getting 1,000 calories worth of sugar without even realizing it.
And and the cascade of things that happen biologically after that for the next few days. I mean, you're impeding muscle protein synthesis. Mm-hmm. You're numbing your insulin sensitivity.
How are you affecting the workout the next day?
How are you affecting the workout? So it's not really just that one night of drinking. It's the next 3 to 4 days are affected. So
Yeah.
how do you really make progress? Because if you take a 7 day week and you drink one day out of that week, and then the next 3 to 4 days are
Byproducts of that.
byproducts of that. So what? You really only have 3 days out of the week to make
To be,
progress?
to be optimized, yeah, you're screwed.
Where are you going?
Right. And scale that over the course of even just 1 year, let alone multiple years, in the, let's say it's half the time, 6 months of a year making, somewhat of progress, and 6 months, holding yourself back, just spread out evenly over that entire year. You're not going to have much, progress in that entire year versus if you, drank once, twice, 3 times that year, even once a month. I'd say like, I would still say once a month is too much, but you can still make progress. Again, it's not as fast as it could be, but some people, like, they want to live their life how they want to live their life. If I can pull them back from drinking once a week or twice a week to either none at all, whether it's let's go 3 months without it, I think that's sustainable for that person.
It's also, I think, and we talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, but I think people don't put enough emphasis on how motivating progress actually is. Because if you do lock in, it might suck for a couple weeks, but when you start to see your body changing quickly and you start to feel better, all of a sudden you don't want to drink because you know that it's going to slow that down. So it really isn't a thing of, oh my God, like I can't drink for the next 3 months or 4 months or whatever. It's really just get through the next couple weeks, see how you feel. You're not going to want to drink.
Don't think about it so far ahead. Move the scale back, or the date back.
One day at a time, because ultimately, once you start to see the changes happen, you get addicted to that. And it's like, holy shit, like if I just cut out this one thing, look at the difference that it made.
But that doesn't mean cutting out the social aspect. I had this conversation with a client a few days ago where if your friends like to drink in moderation, it's not like, they're alcoholics, but, it is who you surround yourself with. You can still absolutely go out and just have a Diet Coke or have water or have, like
Fizzy, bubbly,
whatever it is, like you can still go out and have fun. You don't need to have alcohol to have friends.
I mean, and the reality is if that's what you're doing and you're trying to better yourself and make better choices and the people around you are just kind of making fun of you or giving you a hard time about it.
Is that the really people
Probably
you
need
want
a new
around you?
circle. Yeah, probably need a new friend group, because that's the other beautiful thing about fitness and about making better choices. Ultimately, it does expose the people in your life that don't want the best for you.
Right.
And let's add to that. I like that. That was a good one. What's it look like prioritizing and optimizing the people around you? Because how are you friends with people that you don't have aligned values with? At some point, you got to take a step back and just kind of evaluate how it's going. If you're hanging out with people and your choices in life don't align with theirs, that's a weird kind of moment and crossroads to be at. So what's your advice on that?
I think you're going to see one of two things happen when you start to go down that path of getting healthier, getting into fitness. You're either going to see your friends push against that because that makes them uncomfortable in their own shitty habits, because they're looking at you like, oh, do you think you're better than me? Like they want the old you of the person that's, eating shit with them, getting drinks with them. Or you might be that person that inspires your friend group to like, wow, I really see what, Adam's doing with his life. This is really cool. I think I want this for myself as well. So you're either going to create a tighter circle of people that support you, and it's almost, I don't want to say a team effort, but almost, it's community is very important. Yeah. Or you really expose the fact that you're hanging around people that don't want the best for you. And is it hard to cut people out? Of course it is, but ultimately this is your life.
I've talked with Adam about this before, but I think it's very important when you're someone's adult friend, you understand what the value exchanges you're having. This is not monetary. This is an exchange of services. It's what am I doing in their life and what are they doing in my life that makes this a mutually positive relationship. Because if you start self-sabotaging in friendships, that's a terrible dynamic to have, and that happens so fast for so many people.
Right. And is that really the type of people that you want to have in your life where they're seeing you, destroying your life, if it is to that extent? Or if you tell them about your goals, let's say, you tell your friends or your girlfriend or your best friend, whoever it is, like, all right, I want to try to stop drinking. I want to try to start, getting in, top of my fitness, my physique and all these things. But then they see you drinking and they're going to have fun with you and they're not going to look like they're judging you, but they're going to be judging you. And so I think another thing going on, like where you said, either they're going to, judge you because they judge themselves and they're not going to support you, or they might end up, converting or, like wanting to try what you're doing, or simple matter of fact, they might see you as, they might respect you more because they're seeing, oh, you're actually sticking to your word and you're seeing out your goals, and we still want to hang out with you and we still want to drink, but like, it's totally normal to go out and not drink.
Sure.
I think it's, totally fine to have friends that want to do that and still go out with them. But also on the other hand, at a certain point, if you're really trying to, get towards like more and more into fitness, that is kind of, a different realm of people that you're going to be surrounding yourself with than people who casually drink, once a week. Mm-hmm. And I've had friends where I've, kind of migrated away from that do, drink pretty frequently. And then just so happens that, when I, I'm into bodybuilding, I'm into fitness, meet people at the gym, meet people through social media, we kind of just merge together and just, it's just kind of
higher energy people too. Cause the people who are drinking multiple days a week, going back to your logic, it's a 3-day effect afterwards. They're fried. It's not really someone who's in high environment situations.
Well, here's the deal. This is what's interesting about that. It doesn't just stop at fitness, because if you decide that you want to better your life and these people have some kind of adverse reaction to you being better for yourself, that's not just going to stop at fitness. If you start making more money, those are the same people that are going to be jealous of you.
Haters fast.
If you get a new, hot girlfriend, boyfriend, and you're in this fantastic relationship and they're not, they're the same people that are probably going to hate on that. Yeah. So it exposes actually a lot more. And I think that resistance is a big part of the journey. It's so much more than just the physical aspect of it. So
it's a great signal to see. It's like, if you're hating on me for this, I'm very happy we've seen this early on in the friendship, because everything else I'm going to succeed in.
Well, because even if it's a longtime friend of yours, fitness might be the thing that exposed that quality that you haven't been able to see for many, many years. That's very important.
Well, even when someone's your long-term friend, it's very hard for them to see if you advanced over the last, 5 years of the friendship. They may still see you as equals. So there's a lot of resentment that could have been built up.
Right. And I mean, this is in friendships, relationships. If you're not growing at the same pace, it's very normal to outgrow friend groups. It's very normal to outgrow relationships. And that's okay. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's very important to not sit there and feel guilty about it, because, again, going back to the fact, this is your life.
And just like all of us here, we're all excited to lift anybody up around us. So it's not like while you're on the journey, you're pushing other people down. You're inviting everyone. It's just eventually you got to kick the people off who are just struggling.
Well, that's why I think, we're very lucky to have the friend group that we have. And I'm grateful every single day for having the people in my life that I do. But that's a byproduct of the choices that I've made years ago, because I don't allow people that aren't going to be, I don't want to use the word productive, but yeah, productive to my mental health, to the things that I'm trying to do. If I even see an inkling of like jealousy of some kind of weird behavior, I don't want that. And there's no beef. It's not a problem, but it's like, listen, man, maybe you go over there, and I'll be over here, and that's okay.
And it's because, again, I just met you, but I can already tell when you're someone's friend, you like to operate at a certain level. It's you're trying to show up for them if they show up for you. So if someone's just draining energy for you and you can't even show up how you want to show up, at that point, it's just making it very much a tiring relationship to continue. So.
Right, and I think it's very important. And I mean, we could get in as deep as you guys want into this, but I think it's very important to just be the type of person to where you're just unapologetically you. Like, Absolutely. A lot of people use that kind of like, oh, I'm unapologetically me. Most people aren't. The way that I try to behave is with me, like, what you see is what you get. You have the difficult conversations, you address these things. And I'm not saying, like what we're talking about, a fitness journey, like you start bettering your life and there's some pushback and all of a sudden, all right, I'm cutting everybody off. It doesn't need to be that, but there should be a conversation first. I feel like, look, this is what I'm trying to do. I would really appreciate it if you showed me some type of support, or at least didn't push back on it or tried to sway me back to my old habits.
That's all you're asking for, is just don't give me shit for it.
That's all it is. You're not asking somebody to fucking meal prep for you. You're not, you don't need to come to the gym with me and spot me every day. But it's like, at the very minimum, don't be a detriment to what I'm trying to do. And if once you have that conversation, if that continues, that's when you have to start looking at, maybe I need to distance myself.
And long-term building relationships with that kind of philosophy in mind can be so beneficial. I mean, a decade of thinking, how can I optimize how I treat people, and how can they optimize how I am treated? What you can do with that type of community is crazy. And
Absolutely.
you guys are both incredible at communication. You have to kind of communicate a lot of personal things to people as far as the health things go. What are some things you've noticed that help you, and what things are kind of having people push back? Because if you're bringing up to someone that they're fat, their ego is going to come up. It is. They're going to tell you, no, I'm not eating, etc. But you know they are. So talk about that for a bit.
Like a client or somebody in person?
A client specifically.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to ask them what they want, right? You know, what are your goals? Why did you, even hire me in the first place? If they, are kind of in that delusion mindset, then you can't fix broken. You can't tell somebody.
You can lead a horse to water, right?
Right. But I think like from experience, somebody who might be in a little bit more denial of they don't think their habits are having as much of an effect on their progress as it actually is. Having that conversation with them and letting them know. I mean, alcohol again is a perfect example of, well, I only drink once a week. Or if it's with cheat meals, another great example is somebody you might think that they're eating healthy, but they're not following the diet.
Yeah.
They're, going out to this, Greek restaurant or
Getting
whatever.
Chipotle.
Exactly. And Chipotle and it's just chicken and rice, right? But, actually having either, cooking your own food or even just buying a meal prep service and just having cooked chicken and rice or beef and rice or whatever the food is that you cook yourself or have cooked for you, not from a restaurant. That's, how you're actually gonna be able to be honest with yourself and see real progress.
And side note on the Chipotle story, that was me and Adam. Okay, I got told by Adam Chipotle is not as healthy as I think, and I had to listen to him. It's important to have people around you who aren't just yes men, and it's important to take their advice. If I can see Adam's living his whole life structured around the idea of being as optimized as he can in this area of bodybuilding, and he tells me to do something, you know how arrogant I'd have to be to argue with you? That'd be ridiculous.
I think there's two aspects to it, at least the way that I try to go about it. So obviously it's well and good. We get online, we call people fat retards, and it's all very clickbaity,
Yeah.
and it's all great. But in a real client scenario, it comes down to two things for me at least. Creating room for them to actually understand that I'm not judging you.
And I just want to specify real quick. He deals specifically with a female client demographic, so that's a whole nother set of skills, man. That's very impressive.
That's a lot of my clientele. Yeah. It's not intentional, but it just so happens to be that way. Work with a lot of guys too, but for some reason it just happened to fall into place that way. But it is about creating space for like, okay, you're fat,
and that's okay.
I'm not saying that as like an insult, but this is the reality of your situation, right? That's number one. And it's just having them understand that, because as soon as people feel like you mentioned, they're being judged, that's when they start to shut down. That's when the ego starts to inflate. Oh, fuck you.
Right.
My coach called me fat. It's about create space for them to understand that, like, look, I'm on your team.
Yeah.
I'm not going against you. And the second thing, what you mentioned, education. So they might not be aware of the fact that the choices that they're making aren't good. So if you can provide those two things, and after that they still push back, I think there's some internal work that needs to be done at that point, which is out of our scope. Like, that's where you have to maybe talk to a psychologist or really sit back and reflect on, what do I really want?
How delusional are you being with the reality you're distorting to tell yourself
right.
a
So
story?
there's a concept in business where it's, everybody wants to be rich. Like, everybody wants to have the dream life, the big house, the cars, the whatever. But not a lot of people are willing to do the actual grind of what it takes to get there. So if you can sit there and have a very honest conversation with yourself of, am I willing to do these things or not? If the answer is no, give up on that. Give up on that dream, give up on that goal, because you're just going to be stressing yourself out over time of yo-yoing back and forth of, like, I'm going to try this diet and then it's not going to work and then I'm going to go back to eating like a pig, and just give up on it. Live your life, enjoy your life, be fat, don't even worry about it. Yeah. But if you sit back and you understand, like, okay, I want this goal really, really bad, I'm willing to do the things that need to happen in order to get there. I'm willing to make the changes and kind of put my ego aside and be like, okay, I don't know everything. I'm going to let this person, in a coaching perspective, I'm going to let this person take the reins, and I'm just going to learn. So there's a level of humbleness that comes with it.
Yeah. And also from the coaching perspective, like, I never, judge the client for their, whether it's they've not been able to follow their diet. They haven't, been honest with me, whatever it is. Like, I don't get anything out of judging somebody, for that. I think like if somebody hires me, I want them to win, plain and simple. I want them to make progress, and that's the teamwork aspect of the coach-client relationship, is understanding that your coach isn't going to judge you if you said, "Oh yeah, I cheated on my diet," or "I've been lying to you this entire time."
Which happens a lot.
It does,
And you guys probably know most of the time too. It's like
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean,
the results don't lie.
Listen, man. Yeah, like there's biology is biology. Sometimes numbers, and again, like
if you're not losing weight, there's a reason.
right. So right, and it's like, listen. Sometimes there's underlying thing, but if I'm looking at your blood work, you don't have a hormonal issue. You don't have anything outside of diet, training.
But you're claiming to do an hour of cardio a day.
Doesn't happen. So it's just there's just that one point, like numbers just simply don't lie. But it's like, again, what you mentioned, honesty too. I encourage all my clients, if you fucked up, tell me that, because I would rather you tell me that and we address the issue where it is, whether that be binge eating, whether that be, missing workouts, whatever the case is. I would rather, again, create the space, not judging. Let's fix it. Let's fix it together. Because I've had clients, I had a client, I used to work with this woman that I programmed ice cream for her every single day. She had a binge eating issue.
Wow.
And I sat there and I was like, okay, the clean eating thing is not going to work here. We have to just lean into what you want. So I made it fit her macros. Like I did that, programmed ice cream for her every day. Within 2 weeks, she told me, you know what? I don't really want the ice cream anymore.
Right.
Because you remove that thing of, you can't have that.
Yeah.
You remove that and you give them the space to be like, okay, like I could get some type of result doing this.
It's almost attractive because they know they can't do it. That's why they're trying to do it a little bit.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's a cool
that's human
perspective.
nature.
That's a cool perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
or a scarcity mindset of like, getting rid of that, especially when you realize it's in abundance. Yeah. You don't really binge on it, or you don't really like crave it as much.
it's there.
So a big kind of underlying subject I'm seeing come up in this conversation with this is self-awareness, right? In people, and whether they have it or they don't. What are some of the things you guys look for in people to judge how self-aware they are, and what things show up when you realize they are or not?
Oh yeah, especially with their
and in your personal life as well, not just coaching.
Right.
my mind went straight to coaching. If somebody hires me at first, and I look at their application, or we get on that first initial phone call, and they don't really know what they're doing with their diet, obviously like it's a blank slate. It's pretty easy, to give a diet that way. But I think, if somebody has like their ducks in a row, they know what they're eating, they know like, all the details of their plan, it's gonna be a lot easier to coach them. What was the question again?
And how are you viewing that they're self-aware? Like what things show up when someone's actually self-aware?
How are you vetting that?
What little process do you have in your mind?
It's literally just based on how detailed they are with the information they can give me. Yeah.
So this is right. So luckily, we're both kind of at a point where a lot of times when I do consultations, because of the scope that I work in of like functional health, I'm working with people that are already trying to do the thing, and they might be doing the right things. They're just not applying they're using the right tools for the wrong job. That's a lot of times what it comes down to. And they're kind of like, I don't understand why this isn't working. And that's when it's my job to look at that and be like, okay, I'm going to tell you why this doesn't work. Here's what we actually need to do, and then build back up to where we could bring those tools back in and they'll work fantastically well. But we need to establish some kind of baseline first. We need to fix whether it be a hormonal issue, a gut issue, whatever the case may be. So a lot of times it's when the person comes in, it's like, okay, what are they doing now? Typically what I deal with now is they're on point. They know what they're doing. They're probably tracking their steps. They're looking at their HRV. They're interested, or they're already taking peptides. Mm-hmm. They want to optimize. They just kind of don't know, because there's so much information out there, especially now. All the podcasts. This person says keto. That person says carnivore. Somebody says peptides are going to kill you. Another person is saying peptides are the holy grail. A lot of people are confused. So that's where it's our job as coaches to come in and be like, look, all of these things have merit. All of these things have a place in a certain phase of your program, potentially if you need them. But we need to go one step at a time.
and to use the tools in the right way. You know, these are all tools, you know, whether it's the diet, the peptides, the training philosophy, the steroids. But if you're only learning from the internet, from, you know, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or even ChatGPT, and you're trying to apply these tools yourself with your own self-bias of this is how I look in the mirror, or I want to just experiment with myself because I'm the one responsible for it, that's going to be the reason why you're not making progress.
Let's take it a step further. A lot of people that try these things don't stick with them long enough to actually see a result.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of people see all these buzzwords and all these different things and these different protocols that pop up on social media and podcasts, and they jump from one thing to another. Ultimately, a lot of these things do work if you just stick with them long enough.
Absolutely. But I'll also see somebody might hear, you know, somebody on YouTube talking about how they use this dosage or this whatever, and think that applies to them. Right. But like, again, they're not using the right tool for the right job. You know, I had a client come to me that said he was running very high dosages of steroids, and he did not really look like he was like, maybe he had like a little bit of extra, you know, the fullness and the gyno and the acne, but like, you know, you could say he's probably taking steroids, but he did not look like he had enough muscle mass to be taking steroids.
Isn't it so shitty when they take steroids and look like shit? I feel so fucking bad.
It's unfortunate, but it's this, you know, misinformation or just too much information where, you know, they're hearing the pro bodybuilders that are taking these crazy high dosages of these compounds. And so that means in their head, okay, I should be running that. And the mistake that I saw with that one client was, if this bodybuilder says he's taking, you know, a gram of test and 500 primo, that doesn't mean you start the cycle there. That means that bodybuilder might have worked up to that point
after a long time.
Right. And but like, you don't go from, you know, either natural or a TRT straight to a gram of test and 500 primo and 300 this and whatever else in there and throwing the entire kitchen sink all at once. You take steps when whatever step makes sense. And so allowing, you know, somebody to guide that process makes it way easier to just execute versus having to do both, be the motor and steer the ship.
So what's a lot more common these days too, that I've been coming across in the past probably 6 months, people come in with a stack of 6 or 7 peptides, and I'm looking at it and it almost doesn't make sense, but it's all the peptides that are, you know, popular.
Yeah, they're just taking everything.
The GLP-1s, and, you know, when you get into a
C-Max.
Less that, I feel
that's
like
just a funny name to me.
C-Max,
yeah,
you know, so, but, and then when you start to talk to them about, okay, why are you taking this, and this? They don't really know. Oh, I heard this person recommend
fuck
it.
you, Eddie. That's
I've seen somebody
I
actually, you know, taking like semaglutide, tirzepatide, and retatrutide.
You see that a lot too. Yeah, and they're still fat.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're still fat. So, but I actually, dude, I have such a problem with this too. So, a lot of the influencers that come out and talk about peptides in this, like, because functional health is becoming more of like a buzzy type of thing that a lot of grifter type coaches try to get into now. I see a lot of functional health people that are giving out peptide stacks, that are making content on these different compounds, and they don't even fucking look like
they should be talking.
Yeah, like they've got a fucking double chin, they got titties poking out of their shirt. It's like, dude, if you know all of these things and you've got all of this knowledge, shouldn't you be able to almost effortlessly be able to apply that to yourself?
They just got a teleprompter in front of them reading.
They've got a teleprompter. Scripts. Yeah, they're just reading off, you know, mechanisms of action that they got from fucking whatever, some AI.
Yeah, and they're just reading a script.
Which, and again, like, there's nothing wrong with using AI for research, but it's like, ultimately, they're not, these, like, the everyday person is not equipped to look at that research and actually understand it.
Yeah, I think it's actually dangerous to only be reading, you know, whether it's from ChatGPT or whatever, you know, script they're reading for the purpose of trying to educate, but not actually fully understanding it, because there's always nuance to everything. You know, you can't be just saying, like, this is what this peptide does and this is why you should take it.
Right.
Because somebody might hear that and they might already have a gut issue, and if you're telling them they should take GLP-1s, you know, it's probably not the best idea.
And then, to be honest, going back to what we were talking about with vetting somebody that's, you know, coming into a program or that wants to work with us, I mean, if they're coming to me and they're on this elaborate stack of things, and I start telling them that, like, listen, like, we need to pull way back and we need to start from square one, and they're pushing back against that because they want to take more drugs, they want to take these things that they think will get them there faster, I already know that we're not going to click because they're relying on that. They don't even want to do the basics.
They're not even trying to take the advice of the person they hired to
They don't
take
need
advice from.
They're
Yeah.
really looking for the
There's
person
that.
that's going to tell them either what they think is a better drug combination, or they're going to be like, oh, you need to take more, or that's
Super
what
draw.
that's super
Yeah.
right. That's what they're looking to hear. So immediately when I come across that, I'm like, all right, we're not going to be.
Or I'll
we're
ask
not gonna
like,
be a good
why
fit.
did you even hire me? If you're the one telling me like you want to take this, go ahead. But why'd you hire me in the first place?
Exactly. So see that a lot these days, unfortunately.
Let's go ahead and take a moment to really talk about all three of us have really benefited from working out young, and it's not just the physiques; it's how it carried over into our life as we were developing. Right, we were able to have a little bit of a head start on people our age. We were able to operate in a way understanding a schedule more, discipline more. How have these things kind of carried over for you guys in your personal development, and what are some things you think stand out for you individually?
I think because I've been, because it looks like I'm disciplined with fitness, people just assume I'm a disciplined person in general. And, to an extent, I am because of my enjoyment of the process of consistency with my diet, going to the gym, doing the cardio, where from the outside, for somebody who doesn't do that kind of stuff, like, wow, you are so disciplined.
Dude,
And
shut up. Tell them about your Florida house. You literally made your house do a fucking lab, dude. That was crazy. You had it was like the most optimized home for bodybuilding ever.
well, yeah, I had like a room that had just a treadmill and a TV in it. And that was all that was in the
You
room.
had like 500 diet sodas, every flavor you could ever
and
imagine.
all the protein powder and stuff. But like, that's not because like I'm so disciplined. It's because that's
Bro, every
what I wanted
Ninja
to do.
accessory, every air fryer, Ninja Creamy, like anything you could ever want, every scale, like every whiteboards, like it was crazy.
But think about this. Imagine you take somebody who wants to be the best, software developer or computer engineer or whatever. And if they had like all of the best, computer stuff, are they really disciplined or are they just really driven to do what they want to do?
They're disciplined and driven.
Well,
Give yourself
these
some credit. That
things,
was
you know
sick.
what though? These things do carry over in ways that I don't think you're even recognizing right now. Because
with making money.
This is right, but this is the thing. Like you're sitting there going, like, I don't think I'm maybe as disciplined in other aspects. But I would argue that what your idea of not as disciplined in other aspects
bar's just so high, dog.
It's just so high. So that's my point. So when you learn to develop your physique, when you learn to do all of these things, I think it gives you a factor of you learn to figure shit out, which I think as a man is very important.
Yeah.
Especially, for anybody, but
Versus
especially
just
as
being
a man,
passive. Like you're not passive,
figuring
right?
shit out,
Yeah.
right? But it's also, it teaches you delayed gratification. Because
Yeah.
when you diet, like we can use a bodybuilding competition as an example. Like when you're dieting for a show, you might not really see things move along too crazy the first few weeks, but you just stick it out. Even though you're not seeing any crazy changes at first, you just stick it out, and then boom, all of a sudden, week 4, week 5, your body just starts changing and changing and changing. So that carries over to other areas of life because if you're starting a new business, anybody that's an entrepreneur that started a new business, which we all have, you know that
It's
shit
gonna be a
doesn't
little
happen
shitty for a
from day
little
one.
bit.
You're for a long
For a
time.
long time.
Sometimes, man.
Dieting's
yeah.
way easier.
And you're eating shit, and you're spending more money into the business than you're getting back. There's
You realize
no
your
guarantee
expectations
that
are
it'll
dumb.
actually work, but you stick it out long enough, you keep figuring shit out, and then when it finally works, like, oh, got it. So fitness is a lot the same.
Absolutely.
But it only carries over that way if you choose to use those skills that you develop. Because
What a rare opportunity it is to develop those skills and have it be attached to physical feelings. Like when you're learning discipline and dieting or on bodybuilding, you're feeling that. You really are. But in the world outside of that with the business, it's really just mental. So it's one of the only times where you're having it a physical and mental experience. And it makes it real ingrained into you.
It does ingrain it into you. Yeah.
unfortunately, I feel like, especially in the bodybuilding industry, but a lot of people don't really, for some reason, carry those skills over into real life, where if they did, their life would be substantially better.
It's a skill set in
Yeah.
itself to be able to identify what they are and then apply them to other categories. It's a very
It is.
one-dimensional
Versus just being focused on bodybuilding. You see that a lot.
Right. Now there is an aspect to it of, if you really enjoy going to the gym, if you really enjoy lifting weights and you like the lifestyle, it's not necessarily hard to do. I don't have to make myself go to the gym. That I look forward to that every single day. That's the highlight of my day. I love going to the gym. So it's like, but there was a time when you're first getting started and you're not that strong and you're not that good at training and you don't have a great mind-muscle connection, where you're kind of just going through the motions, trying to get better, trying to figure it out. And there's no instant gratification to that. So it's like when you stick it out for long enough, then you start to enjoy it.
Same as starting a business.
Right. But if you don't recognize that and carry it over, anytime you have to do anything for your business, I'm like, dude, we all know there's a lot of boring things that go on behind the scenes when you're actually even like opening LLCs and, you know, doing your taxes and getting an account. All of these things that you're just like
not glorified by any means.
It's not glamorous. It's not fun, but you're still doing them because you understand that ultimately it's going to give you a bigger reward. I think a lot of people miss out on carrying that over. Really.
Absolutely. And also, how often do you see somebody who just kind of takes the easy way out in all aspects of life? You know, you'll see guys who you went to high school with or even younger, where they were the same spot as you. You guys were friends in high school. And then they just never got into fitness. So they never got, you know, that discipline ingrained into them from a young age, like we did. And then how did their life play out? You know, well, they took the easy way out with getting a job, working for somebody, making $20, $30 an hour. And there's, you know, doing what just
comfortably uncomfortable.
They're living exactly comfortably uncomfortable. And I was having this conversation last night with a guy like that from my high school or even elementary school. And he was saying like, wow, it is crazy how far you've come when we came from the same place.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I don't even look at it that way, but I see it. I mean, like looking back on it, it is pretty crazy how like, you know, like I was just consistent with it. And I think like I was consistent with social media for the longest time. I started posting YouTube videos and Instagram and TikTok very, very, very long time ago. And it took a long time for any video to start getting any sort of traction.
You were consistent too. You were.
Yep.
And same with fitness is like, of course, also I'm not perfect. Like even with fitness, like I've had periods of time where I would be less consistent and then a lot of times be more consistent, and same with social media. Like I'll take steps back in order to push forward, but it is absolutely a correlation with the fitness playing into social media content and
Let's
productivity.
talk about that though. That's a great point that you just made. Let's talk about that because what I like to tell people, you only have to do it once.
Yeah.
I think anybody that's never seen their abs, never been really in great shape, I encourage every single person to get in shape at least one time, just once, because once you do that, you develop a skill set, but you also understand, oh, I'm capable of this.
And you get treated so much different by people.
Of course, but even if you fall off, because life happens, you know, like things happen. There's ups and downs. It's totally normal. I fell off. I've had moments in my life where back in Brooklyn when I had my gym, I mean, not to say I didn't have the time to train, but I just didn't have the mental capacity to even push myself to do that. But if you can get it done one time, you can always get back on the horse and you can do it again.
And you have the perspective of what it looks like too.
Right. Whereas if you've never done that, where if you've never taken yourself to that point, to that level of discipline, and to be honest, I mean, I do want to touch on another thing. This doesn't necessarily mean going to the gym. Some people don't like to lift. Some people hate going to the gym, lifting weights, whatever. It could be you can do jujitsu, you can join a boxing gym, you can play basketball, you can do high rocks. A lot of people like to hate on high rocks. Honestly, I don't understand the hate behind that. I mean,
it's exercise.
Hybrid rock star. I mean, dude, I can't do the shit that they do.
No, I wouldn't want to, but I mean, if you don't exercise and then you start doing high rocks, now you're exercising.
Now you're exercising. Now you have a goal. Now you're
even CrossFit.
Right.
Just working towards something.
Even
really.
CrossFit. I mean,
we can talk shit on CrossFit.
We can talk shit on
but
CrossFit.
It's still exercise. It's better than not exercising.
I'm just gonna say my beef with CrossFit. You can't have Nancy coming off the couch and then going into a gym for the first time in her life, CrossFit gym, and doing a clean and jerk. No. She's gonna get hurt. Like that's quick. That's an Olympic weightlifting movement.
She needs like a plastic broomstick.
I mean, dude, yeah, like Olympic weightlifting is a whole sport in and of itself, and you have people training for decades perfecting just that motion.
That's all they do.
Yeah, and you're having people just that have no experience with this coming in. It's like, all right, you know, burpees, fucking kipping pull-ups, clean and jerks, snatch. I mean, it's ridiculous. I just had to say that. I just had to throw that in there.
But like, you know, what we're talking about is, you know, I think if you accomplish, you know, a good physique and stick to a diet and reach that goal even just one time, the way that affects even just how your brain works with dopamine, with, like you said, delayed gratification, if you've only ever given into instantaneous pleasure or stayed with comfort and you haven't actually done something that doesn't bring you any sort of pleasure or gratification for a long time while putting in effort and work, and then eventually you get that pleasure and gratification from accomplishing something,
Yes.
that plays a huge role into success in every aspect of life,
Yes.
from starting a business to even getting a higher level job or continuing with higher level education, or with getting a girlfriend that's way harder than you ever expected, or with having higher level friends. Every
Guys,
aspect.
let's talk about how addictive flow state is.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
How addicting that is.
Teleporting.
A lot of people never felt that, because when you, and this is my experience and the experience of people that I've worked with, when you taste that flow state of like
The feedback system just being on
just
point.
yes, dude. Like, and again, like it's not always that, but when you taste it one time, at least for me, I'm always trying to get back there.
Oh, and you can optimize it the second and third time. It's something where even if you lose it, when you get it back, it's not negative.
But you want to get back there because it's so addicting, because it's like you think about, wow, like when I was that locked in, I want that again. It's addicting. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. That's why I'm saying, if you could get it done at least once, yes, you develop the skill set. Yes, you understand that you have the capacity to reach those goals, but it's also the addicting feeling of, holy shit, like there's nothing like that.
I think we should specify the difference between, let's say, like the flow state of, let's say you're dieting down for a bodybuilding show and you're in that, like low energy state and you're just going, or the flow state of you're working on your computer, building something that hasn't existed yet, or you haven't finished yet, or, that kind of flow state versus, let's say, the flow state of playing video games. You could be locked in playing video games, but what's the difference?
Well, so is there really a difference?
I think the difference
The
is
sensation is similar.
the sensation is similar,
What are you
but
applying it to?
exactly with video games, yeah, you're working through the entire, let's say the round of Call of Duty, you're working, and and then eventually you win the game or you lose the game, cool. I think there's such a bigger feeling of validation when it comes to the flow state of something that is physically laborious while you're exhausted, and it's only work with no pleasure.
Well, it doesn't, when you're, that's the thing that a lot of people that have never tasted that flow state don't realize, because when you're in it, nothing feels like work. Because we've all had those moments. We spend 10, 12 hours at our computer just working on a project.
Yeah.
You don't even realize time went by. You don't want to go to bed. You don't want to, you're almost like, when you have to wrap it up and you're looking at the time, it's 2 a.m. It's like, fuck, I got to get some sleep.
literally
You're
me
almost
right
like,
now.
God damn it. Like, and you can't wait. And then the next day you wake up and I just want to get right back to it.
Yeah, it's a much different quality of life than, working at Crumble or
I think everybody needs to taste that. I think everybody needs to experience that at some point in their lives.
Speaking about flow state, I just want to flex. I got a 19-hour screen time right now, and it's broken down.
Gorgeous.
It's broken down all into work,
Gorgeous.
guys. I maybe got 25 minutes of Pornhub, but that's all right.
These things happen, a little recreational something.
We've spoke about community, and we spoke about improving oneself. I think a lot of people have the correlation that it's you're conceited if you go on this journey. Me personally, I think you guys share this. I feel responsible to be a strong pillar of character in my community. I think if you can have the trickle-down effect of being a mentor or someone that you can look up to, that's incredible. It's not just about being this end figure. It's about becoming that end figure and then being able to show it to others. So even with Adam, like the reason, guys, I look so fucking good right now is this guy right here. Okay, yeah. So it's impressive what can happen when one person learns something and then puts everyone on. So go ahead and go on that.
Well, I think what you mentioned is very interesting, like being the type of man that's able to do those types of things, that's able to set the standard for yourself. Because my mind, for some reason, immediately went, because I guess because I see this a lot with women I work with, when women post like training on social media or some kind of like something, and you see men in the comments kind of like almost comparing themselves to the woman. When you never discipline yourself and you never achieve that kind of flow state and you don't turn yourself into that type of individual, that's what creates incels. That's what creates the type of men that are crumbling our society today. Because it's like the saying goes, I don't want to butcher this right now. Strong men create easy times create weak men create hard times.
Yep. Entirely. And I think now we're kind of in a situation where it's so easy to have the look of someone who has it all together, because you can have such a curated image on social media, but with the lack of communication and social media being so prevalent, there's such a disconnect with how people are really acting. So there's not this subculture of super productive people anymore, because no one's doing it in the real world. It's just being shown on social media, as opposed to back in the day. If there was some guy that came back from the hunt with some crazy fucking lion for the village, that was something he could have, as a badge of honor on his chest. We don't have those moments anymore. You can't show up.
Well, let's go even deeper on that. I think when you, so like you mentioned, like let's say you're hunting a fucking lion, right? Think about like how scared you are for your life and how frightening that is when you choose to move forward. That's a spiritual experience. So similarly to, like, I'll compare it to a modern day example. You've done HIIT cardio before, obviously. Have you ever done HIIT cardio?
Yeah.
Okay. When you do that HIIT cardio and you're gasping for air and your lungs are on fire, your mind goes to a different place. There's actually research showing that in those moments, our brains produce more DMT, which, like, if we want to go down that rabbit hole, but I think there's a spiritual aspect to pushing your body to an extent to where it humbles the fuck out of you. Or if anybody's like, so when I used to box, I was like 12, 13 years old sparring with grown men. And it's, if you're a grown man that's never done any kind of combat sport and you go into a jiu-jitsu gym or you go into any kind of combat thing and a fucking teenager just fucks you up, that really brings you back to reality of like, okay, like maybe I'm not who I thought I was. And I think that's very important.
It is too.
I think those moments are very important.
Well, getting humbled is very important if you have the ability to grow from it. Sometimes it just crushes people. There's so many people with the ego so small that anything could shake it, and once it's destroyed, they become an incel. To lack the ability to do harm does not make you virtuous. You're saying your quote, and I think you have to have the ability to do harm and then consciously choose not to be considered virtuous. It's so easy for someone to think, oh, I'm a nice person, I'm a good person, but you've never been tested. You can't compare this to your comfy life. Like, when were you a good person in a moment of triumph? And there's not enough of those moments for us to be tested anymore. We have to make artificial circumstances to see who we are.
Well, it's like the saying Sun Tzu, it's better to be a warrior and a gardener than a gardener in a war. So it's also very important. So going back to, and I love the example of HIIT cardio because this is the easiest way. And actually, I do want to get into another topic with that, but there's a point where, like, let's say you're doing 5 intervals. The first one is okay. The second one, that's when your lungs start to burn. Then you do the third one. That third interval is when you want to get off that fucking bike because everything burns. But you have to just gather enough strength to just get through 2 more. But when you get through those, that changes everything. Like that moment of clarity that you get of like, holy shit. Like I felt like I was gonna die. I said, I don't give a fuck, and I pushed through that. That activates something inside your mind that ultimately, when you do it consistently enough and you do it enough times, turns you into a different person. And it's something as simple as from the outside, you're just fucking going crazy on a bicycle, but
your brain could think you're running from a tiger.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah, but think about how that, like you said, affects your brain and your neurochemistry and just simply just your entire mindset in general. How is having that experience going to affect you, obviously in life in general, but just in training in the gym, compared to the mindset that is more popular on social media with the younger generation of what's the least I can do, what's the easiest way I can make this, what's the least fatiguing way to train, like being scared of fatigue, for example. That mentality versus the mentality of like, okay, I just did 3 rounds of HIIT cardio and I still have 2 more to do and I don't want to do this, and pushing through it. One of those is going to result in a better physique over time. One of those, if both are taking steroids, one of those is going to see much better results taking steroids. And that's, I think, a huge thing for people to realize.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, like, at the end of the day, it's about doing hard things. It's about pushing yourself. Like, that's what ultimately creates the transformation that I guess we're talking about here. And unfortunately, we don't see that a lot. I think we're really in that phase of easy times creating substantially softer men because we live in a generation of instant gratification.
And convenience.
It used to be if you want to get your favorite food, you got to go outside, you got to go to the restaurant, you got to, sit down, whatever. Now you just pull up DoorDash and get it delivered to you.
Not only that, the fact if you want blueberries any time of the year, you can go to the grocery store and buy blueberries and butchered, pre-cut fucking meat. And we're thinking it's hard to cook. We're thinking it's hard to live life these days.
Oh man, this is don't even get me started on this shit, dude. The amount of adults that I talk to that can't fucking cook.
Yeah.
They
say it with a laugh too. Like you're supposed to think it's funny.
Yeah. Oh, I don't cook.
The fuck?
That's fucking sad. I hear somebody tell me that they can't fucking cook, and I'm just like, what is wrong with you? Because it's
Incapable.
like, okay, I understand, like growing up, maybe, you know, your parents didn't teach you how to cook, whatever. But once you're an adult, that's up to you. YouTube, ChatGPT, are you fucking kidding me? We have all the information in the world. You can't cook yourself a meal, so you're telling me if you can't open up DoorDash and you can't fucking hit a button and get some shit delivered to you, you're gonna starve? Or you're gonna eat ramen noodles? That's insane.
I know people who can't even make rice. It's that bad.
That's insane. I mean, to be honest, when I was in school, we used to have a joke. We used to like tell each other like, "Oh, your mom can't even cook rice."
Yes.
Did you also?
No. I just in general, every time I meet someone,
And that was an insult.
I judge you if you can't cook fucking rice. It's literally it's an equation that makes sense every time if you just follow the equation. It's never gonna fail you.
I think that's insane. Like as a man, you can't make your own food. I mean, dude, I know grown men that they have to have their mom cook for them. Most recently, and I know somebody that I grew up with that his mother had to show him how to prepare something in a fucking microwave.
Wow.
Not exaggerating.
Wow. And it's neat because when people reveal these flaws in themselves, they really do think it's funny, but it's a nice moment for you to evaluate what the fuck are we doing here? Like if I see another quality like that in you in some other category, I can now reassure that I've seen it because I know you can't even cook rice.
It's insane.
Well, absolutely. It carries over to a lot of other aspects too. But yeah, to think about it, like men used to have to hunt. Yeah. Men used to have to kill the animal and be able to, you know, butcher it and do. I'm looking at an animal right now. Yeah, we're talking about you. Maybe not dogs, but yeah, we used to have to hunt and kill and butcher and then cook. Now we have
Skin
all
the hide,
exactly.
the hide. Like this was
we have it all just basically served to us almost on a silver platter. All we have to do is just buy it and cook it.
And I think that really is the problem, like the level of convenience that we have these days, and that's what carries over to fitness. That's why we do see, going back to that topic, that's why we do see a slew of people that just want to get on peptides. They want the easy way out. And it's like, you go back to, you know, the whole fat is beautiful movement and, you know, fat shaming and whatever.
I like fat bitches.
Listen, people got their preference, but it's not even about that. It's at the end of the day, it's like,
now, if they're grossly fat, like that says a lot about their mindset and their brain.
If you over 200 pounds, don't hit me up.
But here's the deal, right? But here's but really, here's the deal, right? All the celebrities that were promoting, you know, fat is beautiful, plus size models, whatever, they're all on Ozempic. They're all on GLP-1s now because it's easy. Because now
it was only cool to promote it when they couldn't have no other option.
There was no other option. So now all of a sudden, nobody wants to be fat anymore, huh? Like now,
who the fuck wants to be fat
now everybody wants to be skinny mini, right? Like because you could do an injection and just have it. So yeah, I think that's a huge problem right now, and it's
tying in this topic about the hunting too with the community. Imagine how hyped it was if we went out and we killed some shit. Adam, you brought home the biggest fucking buffalo. I would be so hyped. And then next week I brought the biggest buffalo, and then next week you bought the biggest buffalo. It's like that creates something around the food where it goes beyond the convenience factor. It makes a positive energy around the experience, not just eating something real quick. It's something where you can see value in the people around you for survival.
Right. Well, it's tying that back into modern day. I mean, obviously, you know, a lot of guys do hunt, and that is a pastime. That's something I would like to get into. Very foreign for me.
I have some friends that
New York. Very foreign thing for me, something I'd like to get into. But even
like elk, moose.
But putting that into an everyday example, if you have the right community around you, when you're whatever your endeavor is, but I'm going to use the gym as an easy example. You hit a PR, you know, like if Adam were to come to me tomorrow and be like, dude, I just squatted 500 pounds the other day, I'd be like, that's fucking sick.
Yeah,
right?
Show me the video.
Right, let me see the video. That's fucking awesome. That goes back to that thing that we were talking about with having the right community around you. And if you're, you know, kind of like in a place where you get excited for that and you're around people that, you know, you tell them that and they're just like, cool.
It almost degrades you too, because if I have to tell someone something, I know it's important, and if they put it down or don't show it some form of energy back, it makes you just question so many things of the relationship.
What are we doing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Yeah.
Especially with I think if you know made more money. I think if let's say like I just, you know, came to you and said I got a raise. I just made $1,000. I just made, this amount of money, whatever it is. And if you're not happy for me and you're more
so
jealous,
weird, dude.
like that would be like,
strange. Yeah.
oh, like,
Even like me and Adam, like we've spoke about like goals he has and goals I have. And when he calls and tells me he hit a financial goal, dude, it's crazy exciting because it's literally something that was just in our brains 2-3 months ago. And all of a sudden it's just met, So to me,
But it also opens the door for conversation of like, oh, dude, what'd you do to do that?
yeah, how can I help or what can you help me with?
Right. And it translates to everything. And if that's not your environment, again, like I guess way backtracking to having the right people around you that are supportive of your goals, like that's what you want. And if that's not what you're getting from your friend group or from the people around you, and even to be honest, people might not want to hear this, family.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
entirely.
Even that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, dead people, but you need to take a step back.
So one of the benefits I had growing up that I didn't realize was a benefit is I wasn't very close with my family. And then as I got older, I realized they're very much someone that would be a hater of those lifestyle choices. So deciding to keep someone in your life purely because of their family is arrogant for the fact that it holds you back a lot. If you don't feel comfortable to express yourself, be yourself around them, it's great your blood, but at some point you got to draw some sort of boundary.
Totally agree. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we went way off track here, but I think these are important topics to talk about, man, because this all still ties back into fitness, because I think fitness is almost a gateway drug to going into these types of concepts. Because to be honest, if I never got into fitness, I would never have explored these aspects. Like I would have never.
I don't think I would be as successful as I am, or
agree.
will be, I should say. I think it's more about, it's not just about getting
will be for sure.
And what a
Both,
cool,
yeah.
and what a cool
Because-
life both of you
Because,
live.
dude, to be honest, really, and it's like I see people talking about this more now. If you're an entrepreneur and you make a living, like you pay 100% of your bills with your business, whether you're making $5,000 a month or $500,000 a month, fucking, hats off to you. That's awesome. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think there's also a reason for, getting into fitness, getting into bodybuilding. Like there's a reason why, it kind of just shows up in our lives of, success in other aspects. I can remember years ago telling my friends how much I made while we were in college.
Yeah.
And, it's pretty crazy to think about, like, why was that the case? Why am I, like further ahead? Is it luck? Is it whatever? I really do think it comes down to how bodybuilding and fitness affects your psychology and your drive and your consistency with all aspects of life.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to speak on what you just said because I like that a lot. I think what this is, it's a cool opportunity to speak about what other doors get opened through bodybuilding. Everyone talks about training. Everyone talks about so many of the topics involved with fitness, but what are those things that can get carried over and benefit you outside of training? And being able to point those out, define them, and then have some sort of plan to execute them a bit better. Because if you're just doing stuff unconsciously, you can plan it.
You touched on this earlier, actually. So having a nice physique, being in great shape, it's a status symbol.
Oh, hell
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there's research, very concrete research, that if you're a better looking person, you will get further ahead in life.
Definitely.
When I was younger, I used to do sales.
Exactly. I was about to say sales. Yeah.
I think if I didn't look the way that I did, if I didn't have the physique that I have, I wouldn't have advanced in that. I mean, I wasn't in that career for very long, but I wouldn't have advanced as fast as I did. I wouldn't have closed the deals that I did.
You showed up looking like a fucking wide-bodied Durango.
Right. So it's like before you even open your mouth. Now, of course, you have a lot of situations where guys are, they might look great, but they open their mouth and it's like a fucking brick. Yeah. But, a lot of times if you're able to
learn to speak and communicate.
if you're able to learn to speak and communicate, but also it's like before you even open your mouth, you already get the benefit of the doubt. Like you already have kind of like
You control that
level of
perception in
respect.
them,
right, because I mean, even me personally, and like, listen, I have friends that are fucking fat, and they know that they're fat. But to be honest, when I see somebody that's obese or sloppy, or
How can I not judge you?
they're not right, I automatically look at you, and people might think this is fucking shallow. I don't care. I think this is subconsciously everyone's brain works like this. I don't care
it's
what
a fact,
anybody
yeah.
says. It's a
or
fact.
you're delusional,
Absolutely. Like I look at you and listen, I might love you. Like you're my friend, but there's a certain lack of respect that I have for you because of the fact that I know that you're extremely undisciplined in certain aspects of your life. And that lack of discipline absolutely carries over into other areas. Now, that's not to say that somebody can't be super fat and out of shape and, make a lot of money,
yeah.
right, and be very successful.
They're leaving a lot on the table, though, being
They're
fat.
leaving a lot on the table. So would they be arguably more successful if they were in better shape?
If you're fat and you're successful, you contact these two, and they will make you way more successfal and not fat. I promise 1,000,000%.
But that's absolutely true.
It's law. It literally is law.
I think a really good also thing to realize is, let's say like a counter argument from, let's say, the fat rich guy is going to be, well, I'm just happier. I would beg to disagree because
don't work.
Obviously, like there's like looking in the mirror. You could say you don't care, but you really do, because it'd be nice to have abs. But also think about dopamine sensitivity.
Yeah.
If you're constantly eating the DoorDash and the desserts and snacks and whatever, you have a very low level of dopamine sensitivity, very high tolerance to dopamine. Whereas if you did the hard things, like we've been saying, the hard things that take effort with no instantaneous pleasure, you're going to be happier overall, or just have a lower dopamine tolerance, a higher dopamine sensitivity, and overall a better quality of life, because the little things will seem like big things to you and just have more of an effect.
I think ultimately, like, it's just about having your bases covered, because on the flip side of that, if you're in incredible shape but you're fucking broke,
It's even worse. Nothing's worse than a pretty dude.
I think that's horrible.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, it does go both ways, but it goes back to having all your bases covered. So, but there's no scenario where being in better shape does not benefit your life, in your relationships, in business, in absolutely anything, in your day to day. When you look in the mirror, I feel like a lot of people
You need to be able to look in the mirror naked and be proud. That's a standard.
right?
Yeah.
But it's also, it goes back to like we see this a lot where it's someone's overweight and like assume they do have a lot of money and they're wearing the designer, they're wearing whatever jewelry.
That's a cop.
It looks
ridiculous.
It looks like shit.
Yeah,
right?
and they're wearing like a shirt to kind of like hold in their fat so they look not as fat as they actually are.
It looks like shit, and then it's like it goes back to just everyday things. Like you see the guys that stand up out of a chair, they do the fat guy shirt pull. The titties need to sit, their guts not poking out.
But you were talking about how it affects you psychologically when you look in the mirror. I think if you were to look at it long term, like, okay, if you say, what's the point of life? I think a huge point of life is to raise a family, progenerate, and have offspring, and that's a huge point of life. I
share
think
knowledge.
Sure.
And I think if you were to look at it from this perspective, if you get in better shape, you're obviously going to look better and attract better looking women, sure, but also the self-confidence that goes along with that. If you can have higher self-confidence from knowing, I look fucking good, and you can say you're very confident, you absolutely can be confident while you're fat, but you're gonna be more confident if you have abs.
Because again, like I just had this thought, we're definitely gonna have the people that are gonna sit there and be like, well,
I'm confident,
I'm fat and I feel, and listen,
I've heard it, of course.
Undoubtedly, there are fat guys that get super fly and they could spit game, and they're
absolutely.
You're missing that extra level, and you're retarded if you don't see it.
But here's the thing, though, that argument, those people are outliers. That's not the rule. That's not the rule. That doesn't apply to everybody. They're a unique situation, but for the most part, the people that are out of shape and they're like we're talking.
And let's say they want to get better in shape.
Dudes.
Think about how that's going to affect how you talk to women, your self view of yourself, your self esteem, and that comes across to women. And ultimately, it's about attracting the right wife, and then that affects your offspring, and so that's going to affect your generations way after you, because
it's your responsibility as a man to do that. It's not. This isn't
absolutely
for vain by any reason.
And coming down to simply just taking care of yourself.
There is nothing that grinds my gears more than being little technical interruption.
Just a moment,
Mike Kobe. Just a moment. There is nothing that grinds my gears more than when I go to Costco and I'm doing my shopping and I see a fat fucking family with their two little piglets trailing behind them, and they've got a bulk box of fucking chips. The fact that we sell junk food in bulk in America.
That's like the restaurant depot box.
And that's right. And that's part of their weekly shopping trip. And that's what goes into
the first thing they grab.
That goes into the father's work lunch, and that goes into the kids' fucking school lunch. There's nothing that pisses me off more, because all I'm looking at, all I see when I see that is heart disease, diabetes, fucking, and those poor kids, they have no idea what they're in for when they get older, not just health-wise, but from a societal standpoint.
Right. And a big part of that is lack of understanding, lack of knowledge, lack of education. You can't always just point it as bad choices, even though it is. they may just not simply know what the better choices are and resort to the comfortable.
The hell they don't.
And
the
that,
fuck?
well, that's why. But that's why I feel bad for the children, because the children don't.
Yeah, the children
right?
don't.
The children don't. That's why I see that, and I'm looking at the adults, and it's like, you fat motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, I mean, like they obviously know, like they could be
You're not
buying
even
the
giving these
chicken and
kids
rice.
a
They could be
fucking
buying
chance.
They could be buying the healthier options, but instead they're choosing, I'm going to buy the shittiest option.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like growing up, I'm so grateful, man, because I mean, I was raised by my mother. Like we didn't have cereal in the house. It wasn't allowed. Like my mom was like, no, junk food is not. So anytime I go to a friend's house and I get to have like fucking
Gushers,
Cocoa Pebbles, tricks, whatever,
Gushers.
I was like over the moon. But it was like almost like, oh wow, like this is so cool. That was not part of my everyday fucking diet.
That was a sweet treat. That wasn't.
That was a sweet
breakfast.
treat,
Yeah.
right? And that's why, I attribute a lot of that to the way I live now, because there just never was a thing in my household, for sure.
So just to kind of concrete and solidify how long this topic we're discussing has been discussed, I just want to make a quick quote by Socrates.
Yes.
No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. So this isn't something. This isn't something that's been new by any means. This is thousands and thousands of years of millions and millions of lives lived. So if we can kind of take the lessons from people who have lived lives similar to ours in different areas and learn from them, you can have 100 lives in 1 year or in one lifetime. You don't need.
It's interesting too, because if you go outside of America, like you go to Europe, you don't see people the size of the people that you see in America. I mean, these fucking, like, there are no 400 or 500 pounders, and if you're fat over there, you get judged for that, rightfully so.
Rightfully so, yeah.
Rightfully so, for all the reasons that we discussed. Because I mean, there's a cultural aspect to it. There's there's shame.
It's funny you said judge, because when I see a fat person, I feel myself make a fake smile so they don't see me cringing as I walk by, and it's just because we've been trained where you can't say, you got to be like, oh hi, Tubby Wubby.
Well, right, but it's like, you know what? Like I don't walk around like, oh, I fucking hate fat people. But I mean,
I say it all the time to their face. No, I'm just kidding.
I have an Instagram account called Fat Phobic where I post about it.
I actually hate that fucking word, fat phobic, because a phobia implies that you're scared of something. Why am I going to be scared of something? I could just walk away from it.
Because if they touch
they can't chase you.
You just get a little grease on your
I'll break out.
But yeah, dude, I mean, it all goes back, and we can talk about the level of processing of the foods and the chemicals that go into the foods. In America.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole thing.
And I mean, the portion sizes that we have here, because I mean, the European mind cannot comprehend the portion sizes that we serve in America. Yeah, it's like absolutely absurd.
A medium-sized cup is this big.
I mean, dude, if you show somebody from, I don't know, Spain a burrito. Yeah. An American burrito, they'll look at you like, is this
turducken?
Is this like a family style plate?
Right.
You know,
right. But then it also goes deeper into how the food companies, like whether it's Doritos or Pepsi or whoever, like their goal is literally to make their product, not their food, but their product as addicting as possible, because it goes back to capitalism. They want to make as much money as possible, and then obviously there's the teamwork between big pharma and the FDA with, what is it? I think it was big pharma or no, FDA funded the pharmaceutical companies, or whichever one funded whichever. But I think it was
the fact that
they work together.
Big pharma played any kind of
right. That's what I'm saying.
Food supply is absolutely disgusting.
Crazy.
Right.
So the thing about it too is what a lot of people don't realize. Like if you go outside of America and you buy a bag of, let's use Doritos as an example, a bag of Doritos in America, and you buy a bag of Doritos in Turkey, let's say, anywhere in Europe, the ingredients are completely different.
Yeah, exactly.
And overseas, a bag of Doritos is literally corn chips, and the flavoring comes from salt, paprika,
and cheese.
But if humans in America are healthier from not consuming that stuff, then we're not going to be able to sell as much medications, and then it's just an entire feedback loop of having unhealthy people.
I mean, it's absolutely true that the food industry in the United States is predatory.
Absolutely.
That's without a doubt.
Capitalism just ran through the food industry.
Capitalism just ran through the food industry, and we can talk about, yes, it's addicting, and if you don't make the right choices, because the thing about food, and I actually saw somebody, I can't remember who it was, but I saw them make this point. Food is the hardest addiction to break. Because if we're talking about being an alcoholic, being a smoker, being whatever, meth addict, you could simply try and remove yourself from the environments and try to avoid those things. Whereas food is something that you have to look in the face every single day and not overindulge in.
Yeah.
You can't not
Couple
eat.
times a day.
You can't not eat, right? So, I mean, and then we can obviously talk about strategies for anybody that actually wants to better themselves of like how to avoid that. Me personally, my house, I don't have snacks in my house.
That's the easiest way. Is out of sight, out of mind.
Some people want to say that's boring. I don't give a fuck. If I want a snack, if I want some kind of, and that's not to say we don't eat junk food. Yeah, like every once in a while I want a little something. I want a bag.
An unplanned junk food meal is a lot different than a planned junk food meal.
So, but there's a barriers to entry to that meal. So meaning I have to leave my house, get in my car, drive to the store, to the restaurant, or whatever. To
get out of my car, go inside.
Right,
Like,
to get that food. And I don't personally use delivery services that much other than for maybe groceries, but I see how some people going back to the DoorDash, Postmates thing, like so Uber Eats, like, right. You can just click a button, but let's not be fat fucks for a second. Like if you're actually making an effort, get the shit out of your house, create a barrier to, or
friction is another way to say it.
Right, like friction barrier, some kind of friction barriers to entry to consuming that food. Because if you're at a point where you go into this trance where you leave your house and go to the store, and
all of a sudden you're just there.
All of a sudden you're just there. I mean, you got to talk to us like.
So I think this comes down to habits, and I talk about this a lot. I learned a lot about habits from the book Atomic Habits.
Great book.
I tell everybody to read that book. It's the best book ever, because it will teach you how to increase good habits and how to decrease bad habits. And if you're somebody that keeps junk food and everything in your house, and I understand,
it could be as simple as moving it to the garage at first. Like you don't have to make the whole goal. There's no snacks.
Honestly, I would disagree with that. I think you have to pull the trigger, because if you start to tiptoe your way into it, I mean, dude, you fucking walk into the garage.
I'm talking about the fat dude who's got titties still. I think if you have some baseline of discipline, that's easy. But almost making it so silly you're doing it, you feel goofy. So that way you're just having fun.
There's that.
Replace it with something. Fruit.
Yeah.
No,
I'm saying like for example, let's say fruit. Like a dad with like 10-year-old sons who want to have not like the junkiest junk food that exists, but like stuff that's not a part of your diet. I understand that. Like maybe just again keep it out of sight, out of mind. That's going to be like the first step to decreasing a bad habit, is just not putting it right where you see it. So if your issue is eating the cookies or eating the chocolate, whatever, don't do the thing that makes a habit more easy to stick to. Make it harder to stick to.
I like that you brought up you have a 10-year-old, they want snacks, right? People that have kids, not a fucking excuse. Teach them young.
They'll eat what you give.
I have a good friend of mine, client as well, Dr. Gabriella Schwarzberg. She's DPT in Brooklyn, doctor of physical therapy. She has 2 kids. I see what she gives them on her story. They don't eat junk food. Their snacks are healthy. And because they've been brought up like that from day one, they don't crave these things. They don't look for that. All they know is healthy snacks. And at that point, Doritos or Lay's or whatever nasty fucking thing that,
products, not food, but products.
Right. Products that are available.
Food products.
They don't look at that as like they're missing out on something, because there's some people that would say, oh, let a kid be a kid. Fine. Yeah. Let them be a kid. Why does being a kid have to involve eating like a fucking piglet?
And outside of the health benefits too, tying community back into this, it's such a nice moment for people to be able to realize who shares their values. If I'm out and I see someone eating extremely healthy, that's just a check mark of approval right away, where I could understand any connection we could have is likely going to be a bit more successful than the person next to him eating. Like they make adult Lunchables now. What the fuck? That's so weird.
Oh man, this is. I mean, the things that you see in American stores. I mean, there's protein Pop-Tarts. Nowadays, people
actually
think
2 grams of protein.
Again, lack of education. I mean, now people think if you see a protein label on a product, it means it's a good source of protein.
That it's healthy. Yeah,
that was a weird buzzword that came up recently. Was protein everything? Protein popcorn even? It's ridiculous.
Well, you know why that happened, right?
Tell me.
So with obviously GLP-1 medications have been around for quite a bit, but they've just been sensationalized in the past years.
That, no?
Right, because people get on GLP-1s. The whole thing, it all ties back to pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. They're told eat more protein. So all these companies start slapping because
they'll put like this food is for people on GLPs.
I've seen that.
Right,
That's
so
hilarious.
big food companies are looking at it like, okay, people are making an effort to be healthy. They're taking this drug that makes them eat less. That cuts into our profits. You know what? Let's slap protein on the label.
Now it's a
boom,
protein
they're
Pop-Tart with 4
they're
grams of
right back
protein.
in it. They're right back in it, thinking that that's, oh, like if I get a protein Pop-Tart, it's better than a regular Pop-Tart. So this is good. I'm having protein. So
That's so funny.
That's where it comes
that's who that
from.
market is. Because when I'm seeing that shit, I'm just laughing. I'm like,
That's where it comes from. I'm telling you, because the timeline of it, GLP-1s became popularized, and then maybe 6 months to a year later, you start seeing protein labels on every fucking piece of junk food that you find at the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's literally what it comes from.
I think protein Pop-Tarts are the craziest one because they went from having 2 grams of protein and also what's the protein source? You know, wheat.
Well, sometimes they do add whey concentrate in there. They do sometimes.
But for Pop-Tarts specifically, like the Pop-Tart brands, they went from 2 grams of protein to 4 grams of protein.
The bread's a little thicker.
Yeah.
It's a little
Or maybe
chewier.
they put a little tiny drizzle of whatever it is, protein powder.
You know what's interesting? What I actually heard, I think Hani Rambod was talking about this, or fucking somebody, I don't remember. But have you guys noticed how expensive protein powder is nowadays?
Yeah.
Dude, I remember I
$100
used to be
a
able to
tub.
I used to be able to buy, like, protein powder used to be
$25.
like a cheaper source of
That's
protein.
that's why you took it, because it was the cheaper source of protein.
Right. I mean, and you were able to be like, okay, like I could save a little money on when you're
like
younger
$100
and you're
for, like,
trying
the
to save
biggest
some
bag
money.
ever.
Right now, dude, last tub of protein I bought was like $145 for a
shit.
5-pound tub. Dude, it was
it
like
went up.
the precision whey brand.
Yeah.
Dude, and I'm paying for this, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm paying fucking almost $150 for a
buy
tub of
steak.
protein. What the fuck is going on? So, and I think that's actually part of the reason, because apparently what's going on is a lot of big food companies, there's just not enough. There's not enough product to source from.
So I like that you brought that up, because one of the next things I was going to say is we're having a cool moment again where they're getting rid of red dye 40 and the blue dye. And the red dye has already been rolled out, and you've seen a change in, you know, Skittles and corn chips, but the blue dye is about to be cut off. And the reason they extended that is there's no other form of natural blue dye that can get quite as deep blue.
Spirulina, bro.
Spirulina.
Yeah.
So that's whatever.
That's what they use overseas, though.
But the thing is the size of the current market is going to make it where the price goes so high. That's not an option. And
That's the problem.
You have to add so much more spirulina that you can't make it that blue. So it's going to be neat to see what foods get the blue pulled out of them. Spirulina, whey protein prices go up.
It's just the fact that, I mean, dude, the rate at which they're pulling these things out of food is just not enough to really move the needle, man.
Let's see what the blue is, because the red's been done. That's why I
Sure,
mentioned
yeah.
it.
Yeah, and I think it's like cool steps forward, but like, is that going to solve obesity in America?
No,
Is that going to solve
no.
all, the
I think bringing awareness to it is good.
Yeah.
I think the fact
aware of
that,
health.
but it's like, again, man, like if you pull out red 40, I mean, what's that really changing? Are they pulling out the seed oils from these foods? No.
So by January 1st of next year, the red is supposed to be 100% gone. Blue's already happened. And we'll see what the rollout looks like, but it's just neat to kind of see. It's a way to identify what was the bullshit, you know?
And though? I'm sure, mark my words, I'm sure what's going to happen is the chemists that work for big food companies are going to find a different chemical to do it.
Because it's going to be cheaper.
Because at the end of the day, it's all profits, which actually it goes back to, I mean, like to spin this back around onto peptides, the reason a lot of these peptides, especially, I mean, now obviously there's movements to get things approved, but a lot of these studies are 30 years old, and they're in the Eastern Bloc, in Russia and Croatia, and there's tons of research on these compounds. But here's the biggest difference. When we do clinical trials in America, our goal is, okay, cool, it works. How much money is this going to make us when we bring it to the market?
Yeah.
Whereas over there, capitalism isn't as present within pharmaceuticals, within medicine, because their goal is ultimately performance. Does this work? How well does it work? It's not how much money can we make off.
Right, and then also with peptides is the reason why they stopped doing certain trials and studies on certain peptides or even just medications is, like you said, is this actually going to make us money? If it's not going to make us money, we're just not going to keep studying it. Right. And then that makes something not FDA approved, therefore a research chemical, therefore it's dangerous.
Right, and it goes full circle. I mean, obviously, like the patents on peptides are incredibly weak. Like you can add one molecule to it, and all of a sudden the patent is gone. And a lot of the times these patents, you can only keep them for a year.
And that's why it's also not FDA approved.
Not profitable.
They can't patent it.
And take it a step further, these things actually fix problems for people, which means they can't stay.
The FDA.
They're not a paying customer.
They can't stay on a medication for the rest of their lives. Before we started recording, we were talking about statins.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and again, not to say that statins have no place at all, but they shouldn't be a permanent solution.
SSRIs have a similar thing too, where they're approved for so many beneficial things, but they're not
100%.
researched enough to really understand. It's almost like if there's an FDA stamp, that's when you have to be cautious.
Of course. Well, because at the end of the day, the drugs work. Yeah. They work incredibly well, but it's like, it's one thing to use them to mitigate damage and risk while you're fixing the root issue at hand versus this is your crutch for the rest of your life. And then when that creates debilitating side effects or whatever else, here's another pill. Here's another pill.
Exactly, and that's the system.
They're going to treat it with medication. When we were speaking briefly on hormones too, that's a huge thing. They're going to treat you with medication as opposed to fixing the root issue.
The root issue, exactly. You know, it's easier. You know, it's also for a lot of people, like it goes both ways. So from the doctor's perspective, it's way easier for them to just say, you have this problem, here's a medication to fix it or to treat it. And then also a lot of people, especially Americans, but just people in general, are also not going to follow a diet, are not going to start going to the gym, are not going to actually want to fix the root issue.
Well, now let's play devil's advocate for a second, because there's people that would look at us talking about these topics and be like, oh, but you guys take steroids. You guys use testosterone. Here's the deal. I see some people going...
You would take steroids if you could look like me too, but you don't, so you won't.
Well, check this out, though. I see the joke going around from, like more left-wing type things. Of like, oh, it's gender-affirming care.
Oh,
listen. If the pharmaceutical industry wasn't what it is, and if they weren't so involved in our food, men wouldn't need to be on testosterone in their 30s. Men wouldn't need that. That's
plastic
why
in the balls.
Because why are we? I mean, again, I'm not talking about cycles. I'm talking about TRT here. Now men need to be on TRT younger than ever because their testosterone is tanked. Why? Because external factors. That's not just happening for no reason.
Yeah. It's not because the man is insecure with his gender. It's literally because everything in our environment that's out of our control, whether it's in the water, whether it's in the food, whether it's in our, clothing and every single thing that we touch or breathe or are around, even the air.
Absolutely.
That has some level of an effect on our endocrine system. And that is a huge reason why men's testosterone levels are at an all-time low ever. And it's not gender affirming care. It's simply optimization.
Well, it's even worse when it comes to medicine as it pertains, like HRT as it pertains to women, because I mean, look, like I've dealt with quite a few cases of menopause, and it's like the solution a lot of times is estrogen. Sometimes that's a good move, but when we're talking about hot flashes, when we're talking about weight gain, when we're talking about anxiety that comes during that period of women's lives, estrogen isn't necessarily the solution to that. You're putting something in a woman's body that's essentially pro-cancer versus
breast cancer,
right, versus implementing something like a progesterone, which is anti-cancer, really. And because every single time I've used progesterone with women going through menopause, it eliminated symptoms, or if not cushioned them greatly.
Especially because of estrogen dominance, and also if you're dealing with all of that extra sympathetic nervous system activity.
Absolutely.
To help with calming down the body.
Right. But my point being is also, it's like, okay, why cancer too? Because everything in our environment is so estrogenic now, is driving men's testosterone down, men and women's estrogen up. That's why we see the issues that we see, and that's why we have guys like us that are, younger, that are in our 20s, that are like, you know what, I want to take TRT because I don't want to be a sissy boy pussy, for lack of a better term.
And that goes even further into like
that
goes even further into like gut health, liver clearance, and then with estrogen recirculation, and then that also is another, and that leads to gut issues.
Right. So all the food, because this comes full circle. Because listen, I go as far to say, this isn't an exact figure, I don't want anybody to quote me on this, I'd say 90% of Americans have some form of gut dysfunction.
Oh, yeah.
Some form of gut dysfunction. That carries over to hormonal issues, thyroid issues, skin issues. And again, how do we address these things? Thyroid, people get put on T4 monotherapy, which is the most retarded thing that you can ever do. Skin issues, take some Accutane. Gut issues.
Accutane's a crazy thing to throw.
First line treatment.
And then you got gut issues.
While you're developing with hormones.
But even it's like you got gut issues. What happens a lot of times in those cases? A lot of times, nothing. A lot of times the doctor goes, oh yeah, grab some Metamucil, grab some Miralax, grab this probiotic from wherever the fucking supplement store.
Yep.
Or
Eat more fiber.
Or if they do some type of treatment, it's antibiotics, which a lot of the times, if you have bacterial
Antibiotics are
overgrowth,
terrible
they
for
don't
your
fucking
stomach, too.
work.
Yeah.
They don't work. So what ends up happening is the bad bacteria stays where it is. It stays protected. It stays creating damage that it's creating. You nuke off the good bacteria, so now you make everything worse. And when the medication doesn't work, the doctor fucking shrugs their shoulders and I don't know. I guess you have IBS.
Yeah, and I just
I
gotta
guess
deal
you
with
have
it.
IBS.
You have
which is-
Crohn's, you know.
And then you got to deal with it for years and years and years.
Well, at least Crohn's is kind of like a more solid condition. That's like you can identify what that is.
Well,
Something-
I've seen a huge correlation in people diagnosed with Crohn's being someone who was treated heavily with antibiotics when they were young.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, you're damaging the gut lining, but it's like you look at something like IBS,
it's a fake diagnosis.
It's
really,
bullshit.
is what
That's
it
a
is.
blanket
it's like a-
diagnosis.
Doesn't that
almost
just
like
mean you're like shitting out your ass all the time?
it literally just stands for irritable bowel syndrome, which like I think comically should be like the I should stand for idiopathic. Idiopathic
yeah.
meaning you don't know what the fuck like caused it.
But that essentially an IBS diagnosis is the doctor telling you we don't fucking know.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
essentially
that's
what
their
it
question
is.
mark means
We
so
don't
much.
know, and we're not going to look further
Yeah,
into it.
call it
take some digestive.
idiopathic bowel syndrome.
That's-
It's like
that's
I don't
what
know
it
what's
is.
going on with your gut, and here just deal with it. Don't eat these foods, and do that for the rest of your life, and that's gonna be that's the solution. Versus maybe let's fix the gut lining. Maybe let's disrupt the biofilms.
But here's the deal, right? And we talk about this shit all the time. I mean, dude, you go to a gastro, they don't even know how to read a GI map.
No, they don't. No, I've talked to GI
It's not a
doctors. They
thing.
don't.
As a matter of fact, in Western medicine, a GI map is looked at as woo-woo
Yeah.
homeopathic
Really?
bullshit.
Yeah.
Yes, dude.
That's
Yes.
crazy to me.
It's
Again, I'm just a fan of the sport. That's why I love asking these guys questions. So for me to hear that a doctor doesn't know how to read hormones,
Is that not insane?
That's fucking crazy. That's why we have so many issues, man. Because the people that are supposed to be trusted can't even interpret the information they're
right,
given.
and it's the deeper that we've went into this. I mean, both me and Adam, because we got into this field at a similar time. The deeper that we go into this, the more pissed off I get because it's like, wow, these are issues that are absolutely solvable that we solve for people that a medical
it's a
professional
2-second answer to tell them how to fix it.
that
you
a
know?
medical professional that went to school for 10 fucking years and got a degree that they flex and put on their fucking license plate can't address. That's a problem.
It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem.
It's a massive issue. And it's like, I'm obviously getting very passionate about this, but it's because
Well, this is your livelihood. This is your career.
this is
you
what
know?
I deal with on a regular
yeah.
basis. And listen, to be completely fair, yeah, like I feel like a very wide skill set. I have a good track record with these types of conditions, but I shouldn't be better at this than someone that went to medical school. I simply shouldn't. I shouldn't.
And that's why I love Adam so much, guys. I'm going to mention this every time you see me here. Is I've come to him with a fucking 10,000 page long question list to be dramatic, and he's answered everyone every time. Just
The
off
walking
top of his dome.
encyclopedia for sure, yeah.
He's not opening his phone and Googling shit. Like
Yeah.
he's just going off the dome. So these are people. These two guys sitting in front of me are people who've been doing this. It's their life. These aren't just doctors you clock in and clock
I mean,
out.
how
This is-
often do you go to a doctor and they have to ask ChatGPT or look up on WebMD or look up on the internet, how do I fix this?
Yeah, what are they doing when they leave the room?
I mean, man, I could go on and on about this because it's just the other day I was talking to one of my clients. She was telling me about her mom. I think I told you about this. Her mom is on T4 monotherapy. She had a thyroid condition. I'm not going to say whether it was Hashimoto's because I actually don't remember whether it was that. They removed her thyroid. She has no thyroid. They have her on T4. What's converting it?
Well, I mean,
and is there tests to see how efficient that medication is working on her at all? Or are they just doing that shit?
I mean, most of the time they just test TSH, to be honest, which doesn't tell you
crazy
shit about thyroid.
okay, the thing that
function.
pisses me off actually is doctors don't actually test T3. So they'll test TSH and T4, but not the active hormone, which is T3. So TSH is what your brain produces in response to your T3 levels generally, but also your brain can have a mind of its own, literally, and choose to produce more or less TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. That goes to your thyroid gland right here and tells that to produce T4. And so then that T4 goes around your body, gets converted into T3, and T3 is what your body actually uses. There's also a difference between total T3 or free T3 and T3 uptake. Things affect that as well.
Well, let's talk about reverse T3 as well. Nobody tests for that either.
That's another one, is doctors aren't even testing for reverse T3. So
Is that
reverse,
table too?
yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
yes,
You can just
absolutely.
literally test reverse T3 on your blood work on algorx.com using code CATS.
Right. little plug. But
And what that does is that's also going to bind to the T3 receptor, but it inhibits it from T3 actually being able to bind to it. So you can have normal levels of T3 with low T3 symptoms or low thyroid symptoms. It's because you have reverse T3 being converted from, you have T4 converts into T3 and reverse T3. That reverse T3 is what's going to prevent you from having the effects of T3. Right. And so that's why it's very important to not just test TSH and T4.
It's essentially, like, to put it in very simple terms, it's a toxic form of T3. To put in very, like,
well, what happens is when your body is stressed, it's going to convert more of the T4 into reverse T3 and then into T3. Right. So that's why you get the low T3 symptoms, or even just to have low T3 in general. And you could have, low T3 but normal T4. And maybe instead of just saying, well, I'm just going to have you take T3, let's try fixing, okay, what's causing the stressors?
Yeah. And most of the time, I mean, dude,
is it gut related?
The frustrating thing, right? And a lot of times it is gut related, because a lot of our thyroid hormone conversion happens in the gut too.
Is it cortisol related? Is it adrenal related?
But and here's the frustrating thing about it: most of the time, testing never even gets to reverse T3.
Right.
Most doctors don't even do it, and the even further frustrating thing about it is all they have to do is draw a little bit of extra blood, mark off a thing on a panel. But you know why they don't do that? It's lack of education around it, because the medical system is made of, like, again,
an old system that's not going to change.
An old system that is not going to. Hope we can
hopefully,
hope, but most likely not, because it's not profitable. But at the end of the day, because a lot of the times, and this is coming from doctors I've spoken to, the education is this condition, this medication, that condition, this medication. It's never.
That's what the education of the 8 years is. That's what they're getting told to do.
It's never medicine, let's treat the root cause, and that's the problem. And it's
a GI map is woohoo medicine. That's hilarious.
And in New York, the problem is, I mean, in New York, you can't even get a GI map. You can't get independent blood work testing.
You can't order your own lab work in New York.
I feel like it's a human.
I work. So a lot of my clients in New York, they have an issue when they go to their doctor and they request certain hormone labs, and the doctor won't do it because they either don't care to or don't know how to justify asking for that test to the insurance company.
Yeah. Right.
So the insurance company just simply won't do it. It doesn't match the code.
It's on their terms.
The other reason is because they don't want to scare the client or the patient, I should say. Because if, let's say, the doctor tests for things that are probably out of range, that's going to freak out the patient even more, potentially causing even worse health outcomes. Where I think it really depends on the person, on the patient. So, I that's why I test a lot more things depending on who the client is. Because if, let's say, you're too scared to test their cholesterol levels or their, anything, because you don't want them to get scared about things are going to be messed up. I think it's ridiculous. I think these are grown adults. They should be okay with knowing that their health is messed up and be able to do something about it, versus going with the ignorance is bliss mentality of, well, if we don't test it, we don't know that it's actually messed up. And then, oh, well, you actually have, 10 years worth of plaque buildup in your arteries. Whoops.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of the popularity, what we were talking about around peptides, comes from, because ever since COVID happened, people were forced to take this vaccine. They were forced to take boosters. Otherwise, they lose their jobs. And people are tired of it. They want some level of bodily autonomy. They want some control of what's going on with their health. People want optimization. People want to feel good. And now that there's options that they can explore themselves independently, yeah, of course people want that. Of course people want to explore those things. But the problem is there's not enough education and a ton of fear-mongering around these things that do have decades of research behind them.
I feel like with the barrier of entry being so low for someone to share information, that's what's causing the bad reputation for the industry so early on.
I mean, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think we should end this up and wrap this up on a positive note. Outside of, fitness and business, both of you guys are very developed and, multidisciplinary artists. What are some areas that you think have benefited you personally the most? Just kind of brag, get hyped up on things a little bit, and I'll share what I've seen in you guys. I'll start with Eddie. Eddie, I just fucking met you, but as soon as I seen you, I gassed this dude up. I was like, this is Eddie. I seen pictures of him. I was like, what the fuck? And you were so humble about it,
Appreciate
too.
it, man.
And that was very rare, because I'm cocky as fuck, and I love it. I ain't gonna stop. And you weren't, and I respected that a lot. That was
as you shouldn't, though.
No, I'll never stop. I'm incredible.
As you shouldn't.
But I do it too, just because it's nice to be that beacon of light to remind people, hey, just strut your shit. Like Adam, I've called you probably a dozen times in the last few months, just like with the most crazy questions where I'm trying to flex your ability to impress people, and you've impressed everyone every time. And you're so knowledgeable, and the ability just to do it off the top, I love it. So just keep that up, guys, because it's something I think is going to get you very far. Continue to get you very far.
Definitely, I agree for sure. Thank you.
What do you guys see in yourself that you feel is helping you guys with your life kind of improve?
Autism.
Definitely, I'm not kidding. Definitely is some form of autism for sure.
There's got to be something off to be able to do what you guys do. It's again, you guys have just moved the bar in your head so high where you think it's normal. It's not. Eddie, you're still fucking huge. I asked him when I met him, I was like, how much do you weigh? He's like, oh, I'm just 217 pounds. I was like, what the fuck? You're just, dude, look at you. That's crazy, you know?
You know what I think a lot of it comes down to, for me at least? I think I'm just curious, man. Like, I think I just continue to be curious. And, you know, the topics that we're talking about, I speak on with a lot of confidence because I've done my homework on it, and I continue to. I never sit there and I go, you know, I know everything and this is the end all be all. I'm always learning. I'm always curious to see what else could be done. I'm curious to see how I could better help people with what I do, and that's the reason that I do what I do. And, you know, I'm curious to see where I could take it myself, because ultimately, you know, I'm in my late 20s. I'm about to be 28 years old in a couple of weeks, and there's still a ton of development that I need to do, and I'm excited to do it. I think that's what life really is all about at the end of the day.
Just being exciting to continuously develop. I like that. That's
Absolutely.
And being curious too allows you, when you hear new information, you actually remember it. You said earlier with the doctors, they recite stuff a lot, but being able to form a new idea, new questions on a topic that you thought of, that's what I was seeing from you continuously. So that was impressive.
I think the question that is important to continuously ask is why and how, or the two questions, why and how.
Why and How by Eddie. That's your book right there.
Because ultimately that's what it's all about. Because as soon as you stop asking those questions, you become complacent, and that's when things get away from you, in my opinion.
Adam?
You know, I think I like to think of it as, you know, water going through sand. It's going to find its way no matter what. And you know, like, that's kind of the way that I think, is like, it's not like, oh, I'm so driven and I, you know, like, I'm so hardcore and like all these things. It's like I would like, it's a force that I like have to do things that I find interesting is really what it is. I think that's what you said also, is like things that you find interesting. Yeah. You know, like, I would not have the level of output if I was doing something that I didn't find interesting, or that I was just like having to do that was monotonous, because I'm able to, and I think not everybody, but most people are able to do what they want in life to whatever degree. Sure, you got to do bullshit, but there are things that you can do in your life, whether it's a hobby or whether it's your career, where you're able to have that outlet of doing what you find interesting. And that's what I've been able to turn into my career, because I found it from a young age. And so I think that's why I seem like, you know,
took such a different angle than most people did too, because I knew you early on, and I remember the kind of group you were in. A lot of them were kind of just be flashy, flexing the mirror. So you really took the academic route, the science route, and I thought that was neat, because I always heard people like Mike Mentzer or Frank Zane, when they'd speak about things, it was such a respectable way to show the sport, as opposed to you know, crazy vibes.
Yeah,
I think that's where like a lot of our relationship, like my friendship with Adam comes from, is we are curious about it, to where he shares things with me all the time that he learns, and vice versa, and we continue to do the research, and it's like, oh wow, did you see this study? Did you hear about this? What do you think about this protocol? And we're able to go back and forth, and I think that's awesome. Like, I love
really
those
cool.
conversations.
Yeah, that's really cool. Because it's hard to find someone that you can have a conversation that level with, especially usually it would be like a doctor, and that would be lame. So to have common interest and be able to speak about it and give input, that's valuable.
Absolutely, yeah. It's what we find interesting. And, you know, luckily it's played out very well to be able to put it into a podcast, put it into our careers. And, you know, I'm just able to do what I find interesting is really what it is.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't be doing anything else. You guys are definitely made for this.
And ultimately, you know, the hope and the idea of even doing this podcast is that our interests and our kind of exploration of these topics helps somebody else.
Oh, they're going to be lucky if they find this. I think you guys dropped a lot of value. So it's nice to not hear another, you know, hour-long conversation about sets, reps, and what the hell a cycle should be. So
how much grams of protein should you eat in a day?
Yeah, that's right.
That's
there's enough people out there talking about that.
And you guys have so much more to share too. So it's a lot more exciting to highlight that aspect of what you are. And other stuff, of course, will be sprinkled in. But I appreciate you guys. It was fun getting together, and I'm sure we'll do this
was
again
super
soon.
Cool. No, absolutely. We'll definitely be doing this again.
I mean, yeah, we got this podcast table and this setup here, so come over anytime.
So people can expect a lot more of this.
Yeah, feel free to drop any questions you guys have for either one, guys. Make them crazy, make them good. Some questions are shitty though, so ask yourself first: is this a shitty question, and then you can drop it. But we
Yeah.
look forward to talking more next time.
There are shitty questions, but there are no stupid questions.
Yeah, there's no stupid questions.
Right.
Just think about it like twice. Like ask yourself the question twice, and if
Yeah,
it
and
works,
then
you're good.
just put it in the comments. Follow all of us on Instagram.
Yeah, on
I'll
social
put
media.
all the names in the description. Yeah.
All right, great episode.
Yeah, good episode.
Send it.
Awesome.
Peace.
Dope. That was sick.
We're fucking